Hi there. My name is Candace Knutson, and I'm the Distance Ed Coordinator at Sacramento City College. Welcome very much to the presentation today. Sorry I can't be there. I'm off gallivanting around on vacation, but I thought I'd prepare this brief video to talk a little bit about distance education. So, what is teaching online? What does it mean? What happens? What are the definitions? I want to talk to you especially about how it's different from face-to-face education and some regulatory requirements that really do need to be followed. So, distance education is defined as the delivery of any instruction to students who are separated from the instructor. Most commonly in today's world, that means that they're separated by the internet or they use the internet to access that information. So the most popular myth, is that it's easier. You don't have to work as hard. You don't have to go to class. It's so much easier. The reality is that it's much harder. And I think the people who are there to talk about distance education today will reinforce that message. We have some terminology that's really important for you to know. So there's this term distance education, and it's actually even in my job title. So distance education is the California state term, the academic term that we use for any kind of online learning. So online classes or online learning is a term that we use mostly for students in the student environment. And so that's something that they actually pay much more attention to. When you say distance education to a student, they sort of gloss over and they're not quite sure what you're talking about. In fact, the way that we structure our web pages on the Sac City web page reflects that difference. So you'll notice that the slash distance page is our faculty facing page. And then the slash online page is actually for students, and the information there is for students. But we tend to use them interchangeably. So my apologies about that. It's a steep learning curve for learning acronyms and the discourse throughout the district, but you might want to start keeping a little notebook of terminology now. So what's different about distance education? Well, at the institutional level, we've got three things primarily that are different. We have curriculum that's different. We have a different curriculum approval process. We account differently for the data and the way that it goes to the state. We account the way that we keep track of attendance differently. And we also have a little bit of a different faculty review process for online courses as well. But today I really want to talk to you about the differences at the course level. So primarily we have this thing called regular and effective contact, or regular and substantive interaction. And I'll tell you more about that right now. So the layers of policies and regulations that impact distance education are multiple. At the federal level, we have the Department of Education, and that's this represented by this little tree in the corner. We've got the California Community College's Chancellor's Office. At the state level, we have the ACCJC, or the Accrediting Commission for Community and Junior Colleges, and that's a division of WASC, the Western Association of Schools and Colleges. We also have the Los Rios District and policies set up by the district. We also have our union, our faculty union, which we absolutely depend on for critical help. And then we also have our institution rules and practices. So regulators look for parity. They look for everything to be the same between face-to-face courses and distance education courses. And it's really impossible to make sure that they're exactly the same, or else we wouldn't be offering this different modality, right? So the questions that they're looking at are distance education students served in the same capacity as on-the-ground students? So in the classroom, we look at faculty contact with students. We also look at student support, tutoring, counseling, etc. So we have to make sure and work hard that all of our support systems support distance education students as well. And that's what our regulators are looking at. So what is this regular effective contact thing? Regular effective contact, or regular substantive interaction, that's just basically a tool to assess parity. So on the ground is equal to distance ed. The tool to make that happen is regular effective contact, or regular substantive interaction. By the way, those two terms come from two different sources. The feds use regular and substantive interaction, and the state uses regular and effective contact. Probably in the next 5 years or so, those two will be more closely aligned. But for now, the two are sort of interchangeable. In terms of the initials, sorry, you have to know both. Okay, REC, RSI, it's mandatory for all distance ed courses for any and all of the face-to-face instruction that's replaced by online hours. So if you have a course with 54 hours of instruction or lecture, and you replace 2 of those hours of instruction with the work on the internet or with distance education, that is considered a distance education course. So, what is it? It's faculty initiated, it's subject matter related, and it has to be more than just a grade. And it has to be regular and predictable, and at least as much as face-to-face course would provide. So, for instance, think of the number of hours per week of lecture and lab. And so if you have a 16-week semester and you have a 3-unit course, then you would see those students in class about 3 hours. So if you take that class online in that 16-week semester, you would expect at least 3, we're going to say 3 contacts with students. And this is a debatable number. There really is no academic guidance about exactly what that number is. But if you think about just as much as face-to-face, if you think about 1 contact per hour, that's a pretty good guideline to go by. Now, it gets a little more complicated when we start going with 8-week courses or 6-week courses, and you have to take those hours through the regular semester and then figure out how many contacts that would be in that truncated semester. So what this results in is faculty-student and student-to-student interactions. That's what we really want. We want to ensure that the faculty and the students are interacting in a meaningful, substantive way regarding content in the confines of that distance education environment. There are many tools that you can use for this sort of contact. So discussion board posts, grades feedback, emails, news items, all these need to be content related. And notice in the center of the circle here, all students equally. You can't, for instance, give feedback on grades to 5 students one week and then 5 different students the next week. It should be really to all students equally. So if you give quiz feedback to one student and consider this as part of your regular effective contact, you need to give that to all students. This doesn't say that you can't give more feedback to one student or another, but you can't count that as your method of regularly and effectively contacting all students. I hope that makes sense. Local practices. So if you want to know more information about the policies that frame distance education at Sacramento City College, go to our website, and I gave you this address before, the losrios.edu/distance, and look for this menu that says policies and guidelines. There's an entire list of very exciting documents for you to take a look at. We also have online teaching training available. You can take advantage of our OTLA, our Online Teaching and Learning Academy at Sac City, and it's run twice a year, 6 Fridays. You can email Brian Pogue, our Instructional Development Coordinator, who's my partner in crime there. He should actually be at one of these presentations, so make sure you say hi to him. So there are also some online at one courses, and this is our partner through the Chancellor's Office, and they offer a couple of different varieties, a 4-week option and then a 12-week option. So you do have some ways of gaining some information and how to teach online. It's much more than just about how to use Canvas, our learning management system. So how do you find more information? Call us if you need more help. There's my direct number, 558-2636. There's my email. That's the easiest email to give you, sccde@scc.losrios.edu. So find more information about best practices and policies at that website I gave you. Have fun in your internship and let me know if you need any help.